What's up? Welcome in on this Tuesday, the 16th day of December 2025. I still can't believe that we are 15 days away from the end of 2025. Where the hell did you go? As always, though, we're going to finish this year with one hell of a sports bang, if you will. And you could take that a million ways. However you want to take that, you go ahead and take that. You can figure that out. Plenty of stuff to talk about. If you're noticing something for a Tuesday, yes, you're not seeing things. I am by myself. Literally. Fiance's out of town. TJ is gone. He'll be with me tomorrow. Mac has been called by a higher power this week. That sounds weird. It almost sounds like he's dead. Mac is not dead. He's just handling something this week. He will be back with us next week. It's crazy to think about this because it seems like it just flies by so damn fast. And as you get older, it goes by faster and faster and faster. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. We've only got 5 shows left for the year 2025. Got tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday. No show Friday this week. And then the next consecutive weeks with Wednesday holidays in there. We have got a show on next Tuesday, a show on the 30th, and then we're going to jump right into 2026 because our first show of 2026 is going to be on Friday the 2nd, which will be great because we can set up Week 18 in the NFL. We can talk about the college football playoff quarterfinals that'll be completed the 2 days prior. But man, we're there already. And there's a lot of things that still need to be decided. So Mac will be back next week with us to finish the year. Obviously, you can see him on our social channels at Mike Arana Show everywhere but Snapchat because we're not 12 and Snapchat sucks. TJ will be with me tomorrow and on Thursday. Again, Thursday's program in its normal customary time, lunchtime live. From 11:30, we're going to go a little bit longer on Thursday since it's our last one of the week because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. The college football playoff starts this week and the NFL down to the final 3 weeks of the season with a lot to be decided. We'll talk about what we saw last night as well as what we saw this weekend in the NFL. Couple of NBA news and notes. Quarterbacks. And the Clippers. Well, as TJ has actually told us on this program, because I was curious about the toilets situation at the Intuit Dome, the Clippers season's already in toilets, 1 million of them. And, yeah, Chris Paul was definitely the problem for the Clippers, so happy they worked that out. Here's something that'll blow your friggin' mind, and I'll get a little more into this in a second. The last time the LA Clippers won a home game, the Dodgers had literally just finished forcing Game 7 of the World Series. That's the last time the Clippers won a home game. If you're doing the math back in your head and you're thinking, yes, you're right, that was on Halloween night. The Clippers are a freaking mess. Go plant some trees and touch some grass, will you? I just, I can't say that it hurts my feelings to see this happening to the Clippers. No. There's a shit ton of red L's when you look at the Clippers layout for their season. Last night they continued their losing ways, if you will, at home with another home loss, this time to the Memphis Grizzlies, the 12-14 Memphis Grizzlies. Jaren Jackson Jr., 31 points and 5 blocks last night for the Grizz. 6-20, the LA Clippers. 3-8 at the Intuit Dome, but damn, those toilets I've heard are nice. I have it on good authority. Really excited this week. We're going to drop our 12 days of Bulls Miss on Thursday's program. We're going to try and do the impossible. As you know on the show, we say it all the time when it comes to wagering and stuff like that. Play them straight, play them together. That's up to you. Pickett gave me my end of the year betting synopsis, and I've got different parts of that I'm going to share with you over the course of the week. But play them straight, play them together. That's up to you. TJ and I are going to try and pull off the impossible, if you will. 12 straight days of bowl games where we're going to give you a winner. Some of them TJ's picked, some of them I've picked, some of them were unanimous that we both liked. Here's the question, and TJ and I were exchanging some messages right before the show started tonight. And I have to ask you out there in audience land this one, because I want to know what you think. There's no bowl game on 12/21, December 21st, or December 28th. Now, if we fast forward to the schedule and why is there no bowl games on those particular 2 days? Well, here's exactly why. On December 21st is an NFL Sunday, and on December 28th is another NFL Sunday. Sunday the 28th. This is that time of year where you lose complete control and track of what day of the week it is, who's playing on what. It gets really bad for me outside of football season because I don't have Monday night football, Thursday night football, Friday night football, all day Saturday football, Sunday football. That's how I can tell you what day of the week it is during the year. Outside of football season, good luck asking me what day of the week it is because I have no friggin' idea. So I need to know, in our 12 days of Bowls Miss, do we extend it into the beginning of next year, 2026? I'll see you in 2026. By the way, I would never justify physical violence, but a little love tap to the throat for the first person that tells you, "Hey, I'll see you in 2026 next week." Yeah, you're telling Dr. Mike said it was okay. I'm all about dad jokes and stuff, but like the most played out joke at the end of every year, especially with like the New Year's being in the middle of the week kind of situation like we got this year, is, "Hey, I'll see you next year." Bop, one time right to the throat. So let me know. Do we extend our 12 days of Bowls Miss forward, or do we pick an NFL game on the 21st and 28th? You let me know what you think we should do. That's on Thursday's program. Can't wait for that. Again, obviously the college football playoff starts this weekend, starts on Friday with our first round games. Alabama and Oklahoma from Norman. Expecting a brutally cold night in that one. Thoughts out to everybody up in the Pacific Northwest. There's some weather stuff going on up there. Some flooding. The game on Saturday with James Madison in Oregon, likely to have some pretty severe weather in that one. Does that level the playing field a little bit? I don't know. We'll get into those games a little bit later in the week. But let's go around and bounce around on some general headlines as per usual. Again, feel free to comment along if you're watching along. You got Roz checking in. Mutual friend here he's talking about, but this is hilarious. I haven't heard from you all year. That's a good one. That one's okay. The "I'll see you next year," no. Absolutely not. Don't do it. It's a bad look on you. Anybody that does it. We got some quarterbacks in the news today, and we talk obviously T and Mac have shared their thoughts on what they feel about college football. If you watched last Friday's show, I told you in the final word, listen, college football is not broken. It's not drunk. It's just a little hungover right now. And I think that's important for us to keep in context at this time of the year. Okay? We hated how it worked last year with the format, and they tweaked the format. Case in point, Tulane would have a bye. Ohio State would be playing James Madison for the right to move on and advance to play Tulane. I've already told you. I've said it a million times. I will continue to say it. I think Tulane's winning that game in Oxford against Ole Miss. It is what it is. We'll talk more about that on Thursday's show. But I really, this is a new thing. It's going to take us some time to get it right. But we needed more than 4 teams. Clearly, this year would be an example case for why 16 might be the best number. It's going to continue to morph. It's going to continue to tweak. It's going to continue to be adjusted. Let's take baby steps here. It wasn't going to be a perfect scenario from step one. No balance of the conferences. conferences with teams not all playing each other. We're going to get to that in a second here. It's going to take time to fix it without anybody that actually is in charge of college football. It's going to take time to fix it. I'm already waiting for it. At some point Saturday, some dumbass on Twitter, cite the source there, but some dumbass on Twitter, the first blowout we get this weekend is going to go, see, we don't need all these teams in the college football playoff. No, I'm not going to go as far, and I love Joel Klatt. I absolutely do. He made a statement yesterday, and my apologies to the guys who were hosting the show that he was on. I tried to find it in the pictures here. Again, I'm unsupervised this week. No fiance. No TJ, no Mac today. It's a dangerous thing. 10 years ago, unsupervised Mike was a really dangerous thing. This version of unsupervised Mike is with me and the 2 dogs and 5 cats in the house that are all trying to figure out where mama's at. I'm going to use daylight savings time against the animals since I'm still trying to get rid of whatever deathly illness I've had for the better part of 2 weeks. I'm just going to go, hey guys, look, it's dark outside. Let's go to sleep. That'll be effective until about 5 a.m. when their body clocks tell them, hey, it's time to get up, and then I'm going to not want to get up. But let's be patient with the college football playoff. Let's not snap react if there's a blowout this weekend. It's going to take us time. But for those of you, oh, the system's broken. These kids don't play for the school on the front of their jersey anymore. Those people, this one's for you. This looks really weird to me. And I told you we were going to talk about quarterbacks, and we are. Albert Breer's retweet of USC football's post saying that Jaden Mayava has re-signed with the USC Trojans. Weird. I get it. It's weird. But in this day and age of college football, that's where we're at. Jaden Mayava is re-signed with the USC Trojans. Yeah, it looks weird. I think that's great for USC. I think Jaden Mayava is an absolute stud. And I'm excited to see him come back. And in this... See, when everybody wants to bitch about college football and the current state of college football, these are things that are good. Because there's incentives financially now for guys to stay in school a year longer. And this kind of goes with what Vegas Mac talks about all the time. He is not a proponent of throwing young quarterbacks right into the mix at the NFL level right away. And a lot of people aren't. Well, I think in the old version of college football, there might have been a chance that we see a guy like Jaden Mayava come out early. Enter the draft before he's ready. Gets thrown into a bad situation, gets thrown on the field with a bad team, because why do you have a chance at a top quarterback in the draft? Because you sucked. Usually because you don't have a good quarterback. Hence the reason why I told you there's, we'll get into the playoff picture here in a little bit. There's only 19 teams left alive for the 14 playoff spots. There's only 8 teams out of those 19 that can actually win the Super Bowl. Quarterback play. So this is one of the things that everybody wants to bitch. Everybody wants to complain. Everybody wants to whine. Everybody wants to cry about college football is broken and I can't even watch it anymore. Ratings obviously work to the contrary on that one. This is a good thing. Because let's say Jaden Mayava wanted to come out in the draft this year. Okay? My fingers aren't working with my brain right now, sorry. When we look at this, and when you go right now, and you look at the current draft order in the NFL, number 1 pick in the draft, Giants. They're obviously not taking a quarterback. Number 2 pick in the draft, if it were right now, the Raiders. You cannot draft a whole team with the 2nd pick in the draft. So, Jaden Mayava, could he be a good Raider? Who knows? The Raiders have a lot of freaking issues, a lot of holes. Jaden Mayava goes to the Raiders, let's say, and I'm just using him for this example because of this picture. There's a lot of other options, I know. Don't at me, bro. Tennessee, they're not picking a quarterback at 3. Cleveland, again, I think we need a rule for how many quarterbacks the Browns can hoard. I think they might not actually be picking a quarterback next year, but who knows? The Jets, very much so picking a quarterback. If you're Jaden Mayava, do you want to play for the Jets? Hell no. So this is one of those things, while we're bitching and whining and complaining about all of this stuff and what's wrong with college football, those are the things that are good about college football. And Jaden Mayoff is not the only quarterback making news in college football. Again, in this day and age of AI and everything else, you got to very much be careful of where you're getting your information, especially on social media. Because if you would have seen a couple of things from some of those fake sites that post nothing but bullshit, some of them are funny and you know they're a joke. Others try and play themselves as, hey, this is legit, and mock up a letter from a guy, saying he's entering the transfer portal or whatever. If you would have seen it earlier today on social media, you would have seen that Arch Manning is coming out and entering the draft next year, which is actually not the case because he is going back to Texas next year. And I think that's a great thing for him. I think that Texas team next year is going to have quite the chip on their shoulder and have a lot to prove with the way they were overhyped and underdelivered this year. So Arch Manning is returning. DJ Lagway, Brendan Sorsby, Sam Levitt, Dylan Raiola, and North Texas quarterback Drew Messamaker all entered the transfer portal within the last 72 hours or so. Messamaker, I think it's pretty obvious, more than likely where he ends up. Oklahoma State, with his coach, who's now the head coach at Oklahoma State. The other guy's interesting on this list, though. We've talked about Brendan Sorsby a lot. I think he's probably going to be a good fit for a lot of different people. Dylan Raiola, the jokes are out there. Maybe he tears his ACL and his LCL so he can be like Patrick Mahomes. Maybe he transfers to Texas Tech. Highly unlikely that he ends up in Texas Tech, but he's another name that's going to draw a lot of interest. The DJ Lagway thing is interesting, and I'm not surprised. Well, obviously, when that was announced yesterday, of course, I got a text message from our guys over at the Herb and Raj podcast, and we all kind of said the same thing in the message to and from each other. He's got a lot to get better on. But depending on what you read and what you see, and again, this is where you got to be careful in this day and age, but apparently, allegedly, according to sources, the meeting with the new coaching staff at Florida and DJ Lagway did not go very well, to the point where they questioned a little bit of what he's all about. As a Florida fan, does it bother me? I would have liked to have seen DJ Lagway stay at Florida for as long as he was going to stay in college. I think the kid has got unlimited potential. And I think he's going to be a great fit for some people. The irony here, which will really kind of burn Gators fans if it happens, when you look at the teams that are rumored to be interested in a guy in the transfer portal like DJ Lagway, Baylor, LSU, among the teams that come to the top of the list. He is a Texas kid. Will he go back to Texas, play for Baylor? Does he go to LSU and play for Lane Kiffin? That'll be the thing that burns uncomfortable parts of the body for Florida fans, is if he ends up with Lane Kiffin at LSU. That would be the interesting thing. So what does Florida do at quarterback? There's a lot of options out there. I'm very interested to see what happens with Sam Levitt. Because I think there's a lot of people, I can tell you this for sure, there's a lot of people here locally in Arizona very not happy with Sam Levitt. And I can get that. ASU football is on the upswing. Again, Michigan man, Kenny Dillingham's not leaving Arizona State. We got a bunch of interesting comments when that video dropped out this past week on our social channels at Mike Arana Show. Oh, you just wait. Book it. Bookmarked. He's a Wolverine. Yeah, because you think because you're Michigan, just everybody wants to be at Michigan. No, you're going to do what you always do. You're going to hire another Michigan man. Dillingham's parents live down the street from him, a couple of doors down. His sister is his next door neighbor. If you didn't see his interview on local news this past weekend, which is floated all over social media, about what Kenny Dillingham thinks of Arizona State, you watch that and you tell me if you think Kenny Dillingham's leaving. Ever. You never say never. But again, Michigan man, just because you're Michigan doesn't mean everybody wants to be there. I'm not questioning the brand. We talk about college football. What comes and rolls off the top of your head when we're talking about college football as far as the blue bloods, the heavy hitters, Georgia's, and that's obviously a lot more as of late. Alabama. Okay, let's get all that out of the way. Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State. Those are your three premier brands in college football. But just because it's a big brand doesn't mean everybody wants to be there. Other interesting stuff from the college football world, as we talked about last week, the SEC announced their new revamped schedule where there's 9 SEC games. According to Brett McMurphy of On3, ACC, Big 12, and SEC have all announced that in 2026 they will require their teams to play 10 Power Conference games, 9 league games, 1 non-league Power 4 game. As far as the Big 10 goes, we haven't heard a damn thing about it. We're the Big 10, as Mac coined them, the new Conference of Champions. We're going to do what we do. This is, again, the problem when we want to talk about problems with college football. This is the problem. There is no uniformity of, hey, you play everybody in these major conferences that are a part of this college football playoff system. You play 9 conference games. The same thing I said last week. You cross schedule. We see it in basketball. You got the ACC, SEC challenge. What does that bring us? That brings us games like Florida at Duke. And if you're smart enough as a conference commissioner, when you're working with these other conferences, you schedule accordingly. Nobody wants to see Duke on the regular basis playing Alabama. I'd like to see Duke and Vanderbilt play. I think that's a fairly even matchup. More years than not, that's going to be a fairly even matchup. You know, how you cross the conferences is interesting because we know the ACC leaves a lot to be desired. Just kind of interesting that the Big Ten is not on board with that and they think they play by different rules. And you can't argue with the results. I mean, let's look at it here. If we were going to rank this field by most likely betting odds, three of your top 5 teams, as far as what you think for the college football playoff, they're Big Ten teams. It's Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon. You can't argue with the results, but for the love of God, can we get some kind of uniformity in college football? I don't think a lot of people are asking for much, but it's got to be uniformed. TJ mentioned it. You saw it on our social channels this morning. What are we going to do in a year where the ACC, and you're going to laugh at this, but if you think about it, it is possible. What are we going to do in a year where the ACC has 3 undefeated teams at the top, and they all didn't have to play each other, and the conference championship game is a West Texas gas station coin flip computer algorithm? Which way is the wind blowing? Okay, cool, you're in the conference title game. That's the stuff that's got to go away first before we can fix it. It's kind of like what we talk about in baseball. Everybody thinks the guaranteed answer to fix baseball is a salary cap. It's not. It's a salary floor first. We can talk about a cap later. Make the bottom feeders spend money. But it's uniformed. What are we going to do in a situation where a team like Miami, who definitely has the ability to load up a schedule and load up the recruits to go undefeated? Florida State just did it a few years ago, the unfortunate injury to Jordan Travis. Otherwise, that was a team we all wanted to see. This is a Gator fan telling you that was an undefeated team intact that I wanted to see in the college football playoff that year. Do I agree with why they didn't make the playoff that year? Yes, because they weren't the same team without Jordan Travis. Just give me some damn uniformity. It shouldn't be that hard. It really isn't. So many times we just try and outsmart things and outsmart ourselves when we don't have to. Let's go over the NBA. The NBA Cup final tonight from Las Vegas is in the first quarter. The Spurs up early on the Knicks, 17-15. My question again, does anybody care? I am definitely going to go back and watch this game tonight. I'm very intrigued by this Spurs team and what they're putting together and the core that they have there. Very impressive. obviously, the Knicks, Mike Brown, they're playing good basketball, 18-7 to start the year. And last week I told you I was going to tell you what my NBA Finals pick was at the beginning of the season. We ran out of time. I realized after watching back the show I never told you. Knicks and Warriors. That's what I went with at the beginning of the season. I'm a big Mike Brown believer, especially early in his tenure at places, because the results have shown us that he can have success early. Say what you want about Tom Thibodeau. I know I have. Mike Brown is the complete opposite of Tom Thibodeau. And you're seeing those results early. 2 18-7 teams early in the season. I think the placement of the NBA Cup is the bigger problem here. I think if you were to move the NBA Cup to like, hey, right out of the All-Star break, this is where we do the NBA Cup down the stretch of the season. Playoff intensity before the playoffs. What a concept. But again, we don't have people smart enough to figure that out. I'm interested to see the returns on tonight's game. Again, early in that one, 21-19, 4:28 left in the first from Las Vegas. Interesting stuff here today, too. I mean, not every owner in sports is like this, but a Warriors fan emailed Joe Lacob, and I'm going to leave myself in the tiny box here. A, for your eyes, you're welcome. And B, when I'm sitting here, this is kind of cool. I saw this. This is from a Warriors Reddit user, Justin Dutari. So he emails Joe Lacob, and the email says, and again, give me a second here because it's in like neon pink. Dear Joe, please do something about this team. What Steph need to do every night to win? Drop 50 points. The team need is a real second option. Jimmy's tools are being underutilized because he's playing as a power forward due to the small position players. We have no true center. I am so frustrated. Thanks, Justin. A very well-written email for the most part. You know, there's a lot of people I think that do this stuff and they go over the top and way over the top. Joe Lacob responded to this guy. At the top there, you see, you can't be as frustrated as me. I am working on it. It's complicated. Style of play, coach's desires regarding players, league trends. Jimmy is not the problem. Joe sent from his iPhone. I think it's cool that he just took the time as an owner to sit here and acknowledge this fan saying, what the hell is going on here? And we've talked about it a bunch of times. You're talking about arguably the greatest player of his generation in Steph Curry. No debate, the greatest shooter of all time in Steph Curry. On the downside, the back end of his career, still playing better than most people. And this team's still playing without a center, which is a big problem. I mean, when you got guys, you want to talk about players of generations, this is going to get under people's skin. Draymond Green would probably be the first one to tell you that he is an asshole. He's also one of the better defensive players we've seen in a long time. And people don't want to admit that and don't want to acknowledge that because he's prickly. Numbers are numbers, facts are facts. But Draymond Green, for the bulk of his career, with the style of play that the Warriors have played, has had to guard centers on a nightly basis and has done a very good job at doing it. It is malpractice by the Warriors organization to not put their absolute best foot forward here and give Steph Curry a chance to win another title. Draymond Green, a chance to win another title. A lot of people would say a center is the answer. I would say not guaranteed that that's the answer. Definitely changes a lot of things. But again, until we hit that date in January, and I can't remember it off the top of my head, I want to say it's the 15th. Don't quote me on that. When the Warriors can free themselves of the Jonathan Kuminga hostage situation, that's what you're going to have to wait for if you're a Warrior fan to see the thing change. Also, and again, feel free to comment along if you're watching along. Plenty of stuff to talk about. We are definitely going to get into the NFL. Fiance is over in Wisco right now, where the mood is somber for Packers fans, and it should be. Micah Parsons, done for the year. What does that do? What does that change in the landscape? I'll let you know. But feel free to comment along. If you're watching along, we'll get as many of them up on the screen as we can. Final note from the NBA, and this is interesting to me. This is from the Suns-Lakers game, which occurred on Sunday. Very interesting game. Very weird watch if you saw it. And this is after an incident between LeBron and Dylan Brooks. NBA rulebook. Rules 2-E, physical contact suspension. Any player guilty of intentional physical contact with an official shall be automatically suspended without pay for 1 game. A fine and or a longer period of suspension will result if circumstances so dictate. The pool, and this is the thing, the NBA's biggest problem right now, the pool reporter thing, never, the final 2-minute report, that never goes well for the NBA. According to them, from post-game in the pool report on Sunday, they didn't see anything that warranted an ejection and or suspension. What? It's pretty damn clear to me that would look like it is intentional physical contact with a referee. Funny how rules don't apply sometimes. Dylan Brooks. We know about Dylan Brooks. He got under that skin, and that was the result. I don't know. I mean, they say a picture tells 1,000 words. What it doesn't tell is fines and suspensions, apparently. Because that's pretty damn obvious to me. But what do I know? Interesting stuff as we get towards Christmas, where technically the NBA season officially starts, depending on who's watching. I'm looking again at this Clippers stat, and it still blows my freaking mind here. Let's talk about what we saw last night in Monday Night Football. The Steelers, they handle the Dolphins. Shout out to our guy, Jared Smith, here for this gem, because I laughed my ass off when I saw this morning. He says, Mike McDaniel giving off the energy of a high school history teacher who's way too into craft beer and vinyl records. I know a couple of those people very closely. Spot on. Jared's always great. If you're into sports investing, as we like to refer to it on the program, if you're into sports investing, Jared's a guy you want to follow. A lot of good stuff. Does a great show on Mondays on his YouTube channel, The Morning After. Check it out. Drops a lot of betting nuggets in there. Good dude. This was hilarious. But let's talk about what we saw last night as Pittsburgh drops the Dolphins out of the postseason possibilities. And as much as we've made fun of the Dolphins this year, the Dolphins still had a chance. Now they are eliminated based on last night. 28-15, Pittsburgh knocks off the Dolphins, and no, the game was not that close if you missed it. You know, I thought for sure that Miami was going to go another round with Mike McDaniel. We know they're going to have a new general manager there. We know the roster is full of holes. Today, if you saw the comments from Mike McDaniel when he was asked about the play of Tua Tagovailoa, he said everything's on the table. Whether that means that, Tua gets benched and they want to give Quinn Ewers a real look, that remains to be seen. But I saw something last night from Miami, and I love Mike McDaniel, and I think offensively he is as gifted as they come in the NFL. This thing has not worked out well in Miami, and you can blame it on McDaniel entirely, and the head coach obviously often gets that blame and should. At the same time, this is a roster full of holes. And I thought, because of how well they've played, especially as of late, going into that game last night, that it was pretty much a guarantee. And if you've heard Adam Schefter's comments this week, it sounds like McDaniel's going to be back next year, and said new GM is going to give him a chance. But you heard Troy Aikman and Joe Buck at the end of last night's game talking about the way Miami handled that fourth quarter. It's 28-9. There's 8 minutes left. And all they're doing is lollygagging like they've got a whole nother quarter left to get back into the game. Forever to get the plays in, slow walk in the line of scrimmage, disorganized with your season on the line is not a good look for a guy you want to bring back. We've heard comments from within the Dolphins organization of, hey, He's still got the locker room in it, and it appears that he does. But Aikman last night was completely blown away by how poorly they handled that situation. Ironically, Jared's picture here is from that exact time that I'm talking about. This is the look on Mike McDaniel's face with the Dolphins down 28-9 with 8 minutes and 20 seconds left in the fourth quarter with their season on the line. And you're slow walking the line of scrimmage. You don't have your next play ready to call. That's not a good look. It's not a good look. I think he probably gets another year. But last night, if I was watching last night and I was in charge of making decisions for the Dolphins, I would have a lot of questions after that. What's up, Mel? Checking in. Yeah, no. Cody checking in on X. I'm just stating facts, man. It is what it is. First game in NFL history last night where we had 2 rushing touchdowns from tight ends. So shout out to the tight ends. We're going to talk about another tight end who is having a ridiculously historic season here in just a little bit. 2 rushing touchdowns from tight ends, Jonnu Smith and Connor Hayward. I will probably here in a couple minutes refer to him as Cameron Hayward, no matter how many times I've got it in bold on my notes in front of me. But Connor Hayward, Jonnu Smith rushing TDs from the tight end position for the Steelers last night. You know, Vegas Mac, we give him a lot of shit. And he says this all the time. Like, the Steelers playbook is stuck in, I'll just insert year 1920. I think he usually says the 40s, but you get what he's trying to say. Pittsburgh had 4 straight touchdown drives last night for the first time in 7 years. 7 years. If that's not a Vegas Mac stat, English is easy, I don't know what is. 4 straight touchdown drives for the first time in 7 years. 23 straight home Monday Night Football wins for the Steelers. And I heard a couple people talking about this today, and I thought it was funny because it's kind of true. Man, Pittsburgh is really, really proud of the fact that they've won 23 straight Monday Night Football home games. They're really, really proud of the fact that they haven't had a losing season ever under Mike Tomlin. They haven't won a playoff game in forever, but hey, our Monday night streak and this intact. Well, that's going to come into play here in just a second. Speaking of the fiance being in Wisconsin, first of all, how big was Kenny Gainwell last night? Freaking monster. Incredible pickup. Aaron Rodgers talked about it in his post-game presser. A bunch of cast-offs that Pittsburgh has. Last night, you saw the most dangerous man in the NFL in that game as we close in on the playoffs. In a year that's probably more wide open in the NFL than we've seen in a long, long time, especially in the AFC. The most dangerous man in the NFL and a guy that could single-handedly disrupt the playoffs, there is a caveat to this, so calm down, is Aaron Rodgers. Because what I saw out of Aaron Rodgers last night is exactly why I picked the Steelers at the beginning of the year to win the North. And I did double down, and I did take the Ravens to win the division after the season started because of the way Pittsburgh was playing. And while I'm not saying that Pittsburgh, they're going to win the Super Bowl based on last night's performance. They beat up on the Dolphins in Pittsburgh. A loose, relaxed Aaron Rodgers, relax, R-E-L-A-X, if you needed him to spell it for you, again, is the most dangerous man in the NFL, especially in a wide-open postseason. Especially if the Steelers win the division, especially if some crazy shit happens like we think it's going to, and maybe somebody knocks off Denver, Pittsburgh could host the AFC title game. But those cast-offs, the Kenny Gainwells, Adam Thielen, MVS last night caught the first touchdown. Should have been DK Metcalf. Would have really liked that payday in my pocket, but it was MVS. You've got tight ends on the Steelers team that could go eye to eye with Andre the freaking Giant. There's so many weapons on the Steelers offense. Can Arthur Smith call it smartly enough to make it effective? Aaron Rodgers is loose. Aaron Rodgers is relaxed. Aaron Rodgers wanted to play another year to play, as you heard last night, meaningful football at this time of the year. That's exactly what's happening. And we know there's no Mahomes. There's a shot we might not have Lamar Jackson in the postseason. So last week when I gave you guys the list of the only 8 teams left that can actually win the Super Bowl, who's on that list for me out of the AFC? Houston. And again, the theory behind this is young quarterbacks typically don't do very well in the postseason, especially their first time or two in. Houston, Denver, and Seattle are 3 teams that I think can win the Super Bowl this year because of their defense. They're all good enough to single-handedly win games. The rest of the teams we'll talk about here in a second. But Aaron Rodgers, I'm telling you right now, is the most dangerous man in the NFL when this postseason starts. And I know Mac doesn't want to hear it because he's a doctor of reverse psychology. But if Aaron Rodgers plays the way he did last night, that's the thing, is Aaron Rodgers is so polarizing and he rubs people the wrong way so many times. Let's look at real facts here. The least intercepted quarterback, I think, of all time in the NFL, as far as attempts, 2 picks, and everything else. And you saw one of those plays late in last night's game. It's rolling out to the right. What do we yell at our quarterbacks all the time for our teams? We all do it. I guarantee you my fiance can tell you how many times I've been like, throw it away, Brock. Throw it away, Mac, this year. Aaron Rodgers rolling to the side. He's got nowhere to chuck it down the sideline to. Rodgers always wants to make a play. What does he do? He lays down and takes a sack. In that situation, there was nothing wrong with it. Aaron Rodgers is one of the smartest football players we've ever seen. You might not like the way he goes about his business, and that's fine. But a relaxed Aaron Rodgers with a team of hungry cast-offs is very, very dangerous. And I will tell you this. TJ talks about it all the time. It's the running joke on the show. The playoffs do not officially start until the Texans play that first home playoff game, the first game of Super Wild Card Weekend, even though we don't call it that anymore. I can promise you what's going to happen with this schedule, assuming the Steelers win the North and go to the postseason. Pittsburgh's either playing the primetime game on Saturday night, or you guessed it, they're going to be playing on Monday Night Football to finish Wild Card Weekend. Why, when I said that, am I sitting here going, are we still doing it that way this year? Hold, please. Wild Card round, yes, we're doing it the same way. We got 2 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday, 1 game on Monday. I promise you, the Steelers' home game to start the playoffs is Saturday night, or it's on Monday Night Football. And if it's on Monday Night Football at home, the Steelers have won 23 straight Monday Night Football home games. What Pittsburgh did last night, and I'm not because of who they played, is the exact reason why I thought they were good enough to win the North. That's dangerous if Rodgers is relaxed. Interesting side note here as we talk about the rest of the NFL. And again, feel free to comment along if you're watching along. There is a situation here in the AFC that we could have a 7-way tie. 7-way tie at 11-6 for the final 6 spots in the AFC. Now, it looks like Denver's probably going to be your number 1 seed, probably going to have home field throughout, get that first round bye. Outside of that, we don't really know a ton of what's going to happen. We know most of the participants, but this is crazy. So how do we get to that 6-way tie at 11-6, you ask? Pittsburgh goes 4-0. Started last night with beating Miami. They'd have to win at Detroit, at Cleveland, and in the last week of the season against Baltimore. There's part 1. Make sure you're taking notes. Indy goes 3-0, and that includes a win on Monday Night Football. A win for Jacksonville. Thankfully for them, it's in Indy, not in Jacksonville. And a win at Houston. You know, we talked about the Colts sliding out, and we said it a few weeks back before it started. You know what the Colts have been dealing with the last couple of games and the opponents that they've played. That's how they finished the year. Home for San Francisco on Monday Night Football, home for Jacksonville, at Houston in Week 18. So Indy would have to go 3-0, Pittsburgh would have to go 4-0. Houston would have to finish the year 2-1. That would include wins versus Las Vegas. I don't know if that defense is going to be able to figure out that confusing Raiders offense. They'd have to win at the Chargers and they would lose that last game to the Colts. Buffalo would have to finish 1-2. That would include losses at Cleveland, a loss to the Eagles in Buffalo, and a win the last week against the Jets. I'm saying these this way because this is specifically how they would happen. The Chargers would have to finish 1-2 with a win at Dallas this weekend, and then back-to-back losses to finish the year against Houston and at Denver. This Chargers team's playing really good football right now, too. Jacksonville would have to go 1-2 with losses at Denver, loss at Indy, and a win versus Tennessee. And then New England would have to finish the year 0-3, which would include losses at Baltimore, at the Jets, versus Miami. So while it's entirely possible that we could have a 7-way tie at 11-6, the Patriots going 0-3, including losing to the freaking Jets, probably makes that situation null and void. But the reason that I wanted to relay that is because that shows exactly what we've been talking about and everybody's been talking about all year in this NFL season. The Lions might not be in the playoffs. The Ravens could miss the playoffs, and we already know that the Chiefs have been eliminated from the playoffs. Unless you ask Chris Jones, then he's not really sure. That's crazy, man. That is absolutely insane. That with 3 weeks left to go, we could have a 7-way tie for 6 playoff spots in the AFC. If that's not a microcosm of what this season has been, I don't know what is. Let's talk specifically about the AFC as we look at what happened last weekend. There we go. Again, the aforementioned Broncos at 12-2 look like they're in the driver's seat for that number 1 seed. Obviously, New England still very much has a chance. So technically does Buffalo and Jacksonville, but I'm not going to insult your intelligence. We all know what we're going to see out of Jacksonville in the postseason. I don't care who their coach is. So those are the only 9 teams left fighting for spots in the AFC. Obviously, Baltimore, they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to do it through the division, which means they're going to have to beat Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh in Week 18 with the division on the line. Interesting thing I saw today from Underdog at X. Point differential by division. We know that the NFC West, the Seahawks, Niners, and Rams, have been as good as it's gotten this year. It's like the NFC North from last year. The NFC West has the highest point differential per division. The Cardinals getting to get their asses kicked twice. They haven't played the Rams twice yet, but the Cardinals getting their asses kicked by everybody in their division like they do every year helps point differentials as well. But the NFC West is leading the NFL in point differential by division this year at a plus 287. Plus 287. So not only are the Seahawks, Rams, and Niners having fantastic years, they're beating the living hell out of people while they're doing it for the most part. The second division is the NFC North. Remember, the NFC West is at a plus 287. The NFC North is a plus 159. Third on that list is the AFC South at a plus 99. Fourth is the AFC East at a plus 44. Fifth is the AFC West at a plus 5. Not surprising that the point differential in the AFC North is minus 204. With the way Baltimore started the year, Cleveland just being Cleveland. The NFC South is a negative 246. We'll get to the NFC here in a second, but we go around the games that matter at this time of year. Again, there's 19 teams still alive for 14 playoff spots. The other 13 teams have already been said, hey, thanks for trying. But the biggest story of the weekend, the Chargers eliminate the Chiefs 16-13. Patrick Mahomes, ACL, LCL. Not only is this catastrophic for this year because it knocked him out of the playoffs, think about what week it is. ACL and LCL. The majority of next season, at least half of it, I wouldn't put anything past Patrick Mahomes, but at least half of it, we're not going to see Patrick Mahomes. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to try and play one on your TV screen, phone screen, or tablet, however you're watching. But we know this by now. Same thing with the Mike Parsons situation for the Packers. Tear your knee this late in the year, you're going to miss a significant chunk of last year. Here's what should be scary to you. And I've got a great question for TJ tomorrow night, specifically about the Chiefs. since he loves the Chiefs so much. Here's the scary thing. You remember when the Patriots, and I'll give Nick Wright credit for this. Give myself a second to remember that I just said that because, yeah, you can figure out the rest. If Kansas City decides to pull a Bill Belichick, and you remember when the Patriots, were coming off of Brady's knee injury and they kind of hit the reset button on the franchise, and obviously the results told us that was a wise move. Kansas City's in the exact same boat with the exact same one of the best to ever play the quarterback position. And this is a roster full of holes. Patrick Mahomes has never had a 1,000-yard rusher. I mean, you think about it. You go around the Chiefs. Name me their five best players, without a doubt. You can get 4 of them. And then when you get to the 5th one, you're just kind of, I don't know. And we know, with the way the Chiefs organization is run, they're going to make the right calls. The celebration for the last 72 hours, give or take, of the Chiefs dynasty being dead is so laughable, it's ridiculous. Even the dogs think so. It's probably a plastic bag rolling down the street, so let's bark. I'm interested to see how the Chiefs... You can't retool this. You have to rebuild this. And that sounds crazy for a team that's had the success that the Chiefs have had, but that's the reality. It's a roster full of holes. It's a roster full of your best players are getting a little bit older. So you need the younger players to develop quicker than they are. The Chargers, they've won 3 in a row now, 6 of their last 7. The draft classes that Ortiz and Harbaugh have had since Harbaugh got to the Chargers, fantastic. The amount of injuries the Chargers have had on their offensive line this year to be in the position that they're in right here, fantastic. Who's also not getting any chatter for Coach of the Year? Jim Harbaugh. And he should. 6 of 7. And they've had nothing but injuries, especially on the offensive line. I said it a few weeks ago. I thought I was going to see the Chargers fall off the table. They are absolutely not. And much like the Niners in the NFC, you look at that conference record, which is your 5th column from the logos there. 8-2 are the Chargers in the AFC. I think the Chargers should be taken very seriously. They're not on my list, though. Because until Justin Herbert shows me he can do the job in the postseason, calm down. I know wins aren't a quarterback stat. But he has not played well when the Chargers have been in the postseason. Until he shows me he can do it, I don't believe that team is going to do it. 6 of 7, they're hot, man. They are absolutely hot right now. You look at those standings, Buffalo in Foxborough erases a 21-0 deficit. I can't say I'm surprised. Again, I will rely... especially since I bet on the Patriots this weekend and they lost, I will rely on what I know. And what I know is young quarterbacks, especially in their first playoff experiences, no matter how good the team is around them, typically don't do well. 21-0 lead at home against a team you've already beaten in their home, which is a place not a lot of people win. That's a game the Patriots had to have. The reason that people have questions about the Patriots is exactly what we saw on Sunday. When were we going to see that? Does it hurt them in the grand scheme of things? Not necessarily, but they could still lose the East. It is entirely possible. By the way, I was just talking about Coach of the Year. As much as I don't want this to happen because I have financial interest in another coach, Kyle Shanahan, being Coach of the Year, Mike Vrabel is your Coach of the Year. But again, I can't shake the fact in my head that this year's Patriots are last year's Commanders with a way better defense. 21-0. The Pats are up on the Bills. Superman and the Bills, they do their thing. They get a win they had to have. And you can see, I mean, you just look there. Houston, who has a win over Buffalo, is only a game behind Buffalo. Buffalo, who split with New England, is only a game behind New England. The volatility of where these things can shift over the next couple of weeks is ridiculously good this year. It is the absolute most parity season I can remember in my time of watching the NFL. The Jaguars, they hung 48 on the Jets, who reactionary bounced Steve Wilkes, their defensive coordinator. Don't get me down that rabbit hole. 48 that they put on the Jets. And our guy, Waffle House Jesus, Trevor Lawrence, 330 yards, 6 total touchdowns. Still don't trust that team. Not one bit whatsoever. I still, and I'll put it back up here for a second, I still think, when you look at that, I still think Houston ends up winning this division. And remember, they play each other. That Texans team right now, holy shit, you want no part of that. No part of that. Don't trust the Jags. That Texans team, still rolling. They pound the Cardinals this weekend. Not that that's a feat. And let me get this out of the way first because it's important as we get ready to transition back to the NFC. Trey McBride is having one of the most historic seasons ever for a tight end. For the atrocious, dismal, always terrible Cardinals, Trey McBride has been a massive bright spot. He's got 105 catches for 1,071 yards and 10 touchdowns. This coming off of a performance on Sunday against a very good defense in the Texans. 12 catches, $134, and 2 touchdowns. I'm wrong a lot. If you saw our video on our social channels yesterday, my thoughts on the game, what did I say in the video? I love how everybody comes after me when I get picks wrong, but I didn't hear anything from anybody. I did hear from one person who said, damn, dude, that sucks. You had DK Metcalf over 55.5 yards last night. He finished at 55. That's literally, you talk about microcosms. That's how my Monday and Thursday betting has gone this year. But at the beginning of the year, when we did our season preview show, and we've had some gems. Mac was all over this Colts team at the beginning of the year. He was all over the Jets making the playoffs too. Obviously, we get things wrong. But one of the things that I got right in that show, and I know specifically, and I'm going to double check on this after the show or tomorrow, because I still feel like I'm dying. I said to a couple of my closest friends, hey, Trey McBride's touchdowns for the season, it's like 5.5. He's going to go way over that. And that was assuming that Kyler Murray was his quarterback, just because that's how much I love Trey McBride. Clearly, Jacoby Brissett gets the most out of Trey McBride. What Trey McBride is doing with 3 games left for the Cardinals is historic. And I hope those handful of people I told at the beginning of the year to bet his over touchdowns actually did it. I did not. That's not my biggest regret so far from this season, as far as things we said at the beginning of the year show when we previewed the whole NFL season that I didn't bet. That was one of them. The second one was Matthew Stafford to win the MVP. How do you think that feels right now? It's Stafford or it's Drake May. I don't think we're gonna get anybody arguing that. That one's gonna burn. So go Drake May for MVP, so I don't feel as bad. The Houston team is dangerous. And Denver, finishing our AFC notes here. What Denver's offense did Sunday against that Packers defense that I still think is overrated. You see the Packers there. We're going to get to the NFC in just a second. But that Broncos offense that they brought to the table this weekend against Green Bay is exactly why I would say Denver can win the Super Bowl. Because their defense is damn good enough to win them any game that they have to play. They get that kind of offensive production. All the hype about the Broncos might actually be real from the preseason. The other thing you got to remember about this Denver team, they're going to be good for a long time. They've got the right coach, Sean Payton, another guy that can rub people the wrong way. Hell of a football coach. 34 points on a defense that a lot of people say in Green Bay was the best in the league and the reason why Green Bay was going to win the Super Bowl. 3 times this year, I think it was the Packers Super Bowl. You know how this ends, Green Bay fans, people in Wisconsin. You know how this ends. Daddy comes to the table in the postseason, and Daddy wears red and gold, and the Packers go home. 302 for Bo Nix, 73 yards on the ground for Josh Jacobs. Impressive on that Denver defense. Cortland Sutton with 113 yards. A hell of a touchdown catch by Sutton, too. A Denver team, and you're going to have to go to Denver to do it. So who do I think could go into Denver and get it done? Guys like Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen. The AFC is fascinating. The NFC is fascinating, too. Very fascinating. And it's going to get real fascinating in about 48 hours because Thursday Night Football from the PNW, the Great Pacific Northwest. Rams, Hawks, Thursday Night Football. Can't freaking wait. Okay. He's not serious, trust me. But I was just going to post something in relation to a comment he made earlier in the show. Actually, I'll throw him a bone here. Again, feel free to comment along if you're watching along. A little bit more here before we get up on out of here for the night. This is what Cody originally said. I know exactly how the Bears are doing, my friend. Because somebody on this program has to wear a Caleb Williams jersey for every single video and show he is on or does until the Bears are eliminated. And that's TJ. Caleb Williams' biggest fan. Guys looked at me like I had 3 heads when I said I thought the Bears were going to win the division. A couple weeks ago, I jumped the gun on them and I said, hey, that's not going to happen now. Guess what? Bears are in the driver's seat to win the division. You want to talk about games? Big-time games. I mentioned the Rams-Seahawks game for Thursday. Next Sunday night, not this Sunday night, next Sunday night, Chicago at San Francisco. What is that game going to do to the standings in the NFC? Rams get the big win over Detroit 41-34 ahead of that huge game, but did it come at a cost for the Rams on Sunday? As apparently they're going to try and have Davante Adams ready to play on the short week in Seattle. And again, I talked about it at the beginning of the show with what's going on for the Oregon-James Madison game. From what you read and what you hear, and I'm not trying to make light of the situation, so please don't take it that way, but like to the point where the weather is looking like it could drop the whole Willamette River all over Autzen Stadium. Well, those of you geography majors, obviously Oregon and Washington are close to each other. So we've got a guy in Davante Adams who now has to play on the road in a short week in an environment that's outside. It's going to be cold as hell, probably pretty moist up there. God, I hate that friggin' word, moist. And they're going to try and get this guy ready to play on Thursday. And I get the significance of the game, obviously. Soft tissue, hamstrings. This is an issue he's had and he's been dealing with. I understand the grand scheme of things. And it's huge. I don't know if I would run the risk of Davante Adams being done deep into the playoffs or for the year in tweaking that hamstring. And as a fan, I don't want to see the Rams without Davante Adams in the postseason. Very interesting thing to keep an eye on. Obviously, on Thursday's Lunchtime Live, T and I are going to break down the game, but it's a massive one. You know who's sitting there knowing it's a massive game and they don't have to have anything to do with it? San Francisco. I have talked about it, I've talked about it, I've talked about it, and I've talked about it. The conference record for the 49ers. They've already beaten the Seahawks in Seattle. They split with the Rams, including beating them in LA. If Seattle can pull this off and knock off the Rams on Thursday night, and the game is basically a coin flip pick'em right now if you're looking at the odds already. That actually opens the door wide open for the 49ers to win out and finish the year as the top seed in the NFC. Tell me Kyle Shanahan doesn't deserve Coach of the Year thoughts. The 49ers could be the number one seed in the NFC with all those injuries. Thursday is massive. Detroit, they're in the Kansas City position now because of that loss. They're going to have to win out. They are on the outside looking in. Minnesota did them a favor by keeping Dallas at bay. Carolina did everybody a favor just being Carolina in a game they were favored. Who misses the playoffs? Is it the Packers? Is it the Lions? Hell, the Niners could finish the year 10-7 and miss the playoffs. That's entirely possible too. I would very much err on the side of caution if I were the Rams with Davante Adams for Thursday. Detroit, it is what it is for Detroit. They know what they have to do. And again, I'm not going to count a Dan Campbell team out ever. Detroit hosts Pittsburgh this weekend. Green Bay is at Chicago Saturday. Thursday night football is Seahawks-Rams. Sunday night football is Patriots at Ravens, and Monday night football is 49ers and Colts. I didn't even give you the whole schedule. I just told you about the primetime games. There is zero reason for you to leave your couch unless it requires you using the restroom facilities, grabbing more alcohol, or getting more snacks this entire weekend, and it starts Friday night. Rockin' party over here. Come through. Not a rockin' party. Five cats, 2 dogs, human that feels like shit. But I can guarantee you, I am going to be glued to the television all weekend. Those were just the primetime games this weekend. There's some other interesting matchups. Dallas, who is not actually eliminated, hosts the Chargers. Dallas actually playing a game in the morning, something we don't usually see. Oh my goodness, is this weekend loaded up. Seattle, who we talked about, on the leg of Jason Myers. They beat Indy on Sunday 18-16. They were able to stave off Grandpa at quarterback for the Colts. We tweeted this out. Those of you that watched the game, and I'm sure a lot more people watched the Colts-Seahawks game than would ever watch a Colts-Seahawks game this weekend because of the novelty of seeing 44-year-old Phillip Rivers out there. His over-under rushing prop was a half-yard rushing this weekend, and he got flushed out of the pocket. As we know, Seattle doesn't blitz often. Second highest pressure rate. I haven't checked that stat in a couple weeks, but they've basically been the second highest pressure rate all season long without blitzing. They flushed him out of the pocket. I thought he broke his hip. He took like a weird step to kind of evade the sack to the left. I want to say it was Ernest Jones. Don't quote me on that one. Surprised I didn't say. I thought it was Boye Mafe, my favorite name to say on the Seahawks. Actually, my favorite name to say on the Seahawks is going to be Nick Eamon-Warry when he wins Defensive Rookie of the Year, because that'll pay me my money. But Jason Myers, all the points for Seattle. And this is my concern with Seattle. Again, the defense is more than good enough to win the Super Bowl for the Seahawks. They are. Whether you want to admit that or not, they are. Jackson Smith and Jigba, freaking star. Mike McDonald, building a monster. I tried to tell you this was all coming. Maybe it was PTSD from what the Seahawks did to me a little ways back in my life, but that's my thing with the Hawks, though, is we've seen their offense at times, especially like recently, their offense has been able to move the football. I mean, if you go into the stats from last weekend in that 18-16 win, if you'd have told me at the beginning of that game that Sam Darnold would not have a touchdown pass and Phillip Rivers would, I would have told you were crazy. High on some stuff way past high. But that's exactly what it was. They moved the ball in the air. 271 yards passing for Darnold, 113 receiving on 7 catches of the pill from Jackson Smith and Jigba. No touchdowns, no interceptions from Sam Darnold. Leading rusher for the Seahawks on Sunday, Zach Charbonnet, 8 carries, 31 yards. Now, let's be fair to the situation here. The Colts defense is no slouch. They're pretty damn good. A lot of guys that they're missing, too. But I've seen this a couple times from the Seahawks as of late. A little concerning. The first half against Atlanta the week before, We're 6-6 against the Falcons at halftime. That's my concern with the Seahawks is there's been a lot of times this year where when their offense stalls out, it stalls the hell out. Like your first car. Like for me, it was my mom's 89 Chrysler New Yorker, brown on the outside, brown leather seats on the inside, tan if you want to be technical. Towards its final stages, when I drove it in high school, it definitely stalled out. That's the thing with the Seahawks offense. There's so many times their defense is just absolutely flat dominated games, and their offense, they move the ball. They've got a great kicker. TJ's favorite thing to talk about right now, and it's warranted. You know you have a weapon in a guy like Jason Myers. Jason Myers can't provide all your offense, though, as far as scoring. That'd be my concern there. Carolina, I mentioned it. They keep Tampa Bay very much alive. Not that they wouldn't have been because they play each other twice down the stretch here, but they lose to New Orleans 20-17. The Panthers have not won a game that they've been favored in since week 3 of 2021. And I get it. It's a young team. Dave Canales even talked about that specifically. They've been a young team. How do you think I took the Saints on the money line this weekend? Carolina's got the opportunity's still in front of them. I think when we go back on it, when we get to the end of the regular season here, which is 3 weeks away, if Carolina misses the playoffs, it's not the first one they lost to New Orleans that's going to bite them the hardest. They were never in that game. Hell, we almost hit our touchdown trio. Teteroa McMillan, right on the goal line, had a ball knocked out of his hands. That was the only touchdown we missed. Mac got Blake Corum. TJ got a completely useless, meaningless touchdown from A.J. Brown late in that Raiders-Eagles game. Tet McMillan, Teteroa. Don't call him Tet. It's ridiculous. Teteroa McMillan. That's his actual friggin' name. Right on the goal line, Saints defender knocks it out of his hands, and I'm like, come on. But if Carolina misses the postseason, I really, really think the thing that we're going to look back on in how they missed the postseason specifically is going to be Sunday's game against New Orleans. And again, we talk about this down the stretch here. Carolina and Tampa still have to play each other. They play this weekend. God, the internet here is so fantastic. They play this weekend in Carolina. Here's the funny thing, though. Oh, my Lord, the internet. About as effective as the Cardinals with Kyler Murray. There we go. Can we try this again, please? All right. So they play each other this weekend. Then next weekend, this is where it gets problematic for Carolina and why I think this past Sunday will be why they miss the playoffs, if they do. Next weekend, Carolina hosts Seattle. Now, we know with Carolina, against the good teams, they step up to play. Tampa Bay, who has not looked very good at all, super long road trip to Miami to take on the Dolphins, who are now eliminated, and could be with Quinn Ewers at quarterback and not Tua. I'm sure if you're the Bucs, you're probably hoping that it's Tua because at least you know Tua's going to throw the ball to you. My God, Miami, throw a forward freaking pass too, by the way. I understand Tua's having problems, but it's hard to get into a rhythm when you're throwing swing passes and complete friggin' bubble screens and stuff like that. And then the last week, Carolina and Tampa play again. I just, with a young team and a Bucs team that's still getting guys back, Tampa is a team, if they get in, we need to keep this in mind. And we talked about it after last week's disaster for Tampa. Tampa's a team to kind of really keep in mind here. Because Mike Evans missed so much time. Tristan Wirfs has been in and out of the lineup. We talked about the two guards that they're missing on offense and this newfound fascination for the Bucs offense to not give the ball to friggin' Bucky Irving. So I get it. Tampa's got issues. But now that everybody seemingly and hopefully stays healthy for Tampa from an offensive standpoint here down the stretch, you've seen Emeka Egbuka's numbers drop off. A lot of that has to do with Baker Mayfield's banged up. There's so many guys who have been in and out of that lineup. If Tampa Bay can round everybody into health going into the postseason, and the timing for that offense gets down, especially between Baker and the wide receivers again, I think you need to be very cautious of Tampa. Not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl. They're not on my list. But something to keep an eye on with Tampa. I think if you're in the NFC, you're kind of hoping Carolina gets into the postseason. I know what the teams at the bottom of this list, the 3 wildcard teams, are angling for. San Francisco, Seattle, and Green Bay, and Detroit. Because we know the South's not getting 2 teams in. You want that 5 spot. You want to go to Tampa or Carolina. I'd love to see the Panthers get there. I'm really bullish on the Panthers. I like Dave Canales. I like what they're doing there. Bryce Young is starting to play good football. I love their receivers with McMillan and Leggett. Two-headed tandem in the backfield with Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle. Like I like this Carolina team a lot. And I like it because it's nice that the Bucs can't just blow their way through the South anymore. It's something to keep an eye on. Finally, and again, we'll get into the matchups a little bit more for this weekend on tomorrow's show, as we typically do on Wednesdays. Also on tomorrow's show, puck around and find out at the beginning. It's time to talk some hockey, as we do every Wednesday. And we're also going to start to dive in to the college football playoff, at least half of it tomorrow, and get into those. We also talk a lot about, new people to sports betting. And if you're not familiar with the site Pickett, you need to be. It's free. If you're on multiple sports books, which I highly recommend that you're on. We talked about it with Bill Krakenberger when he came on. You got a line shop. Find the best price out there. Having multiple sports books is an advantage. It doesn't make you a degenerate. It actually makes you smart. Pickett, not a sponsor of the show, but happily could be, and sponsorship opportunities are available if you email us at mikeranashow@gmail.com. But Pickett is fantastic if you're a bettor. I've learned more about myself as a bettor because of Pickett. So it's the end of the year, and you see this, Spotify, YouTube. I found it hilarious when YouTube gave me my breakdown of my most watched channels for the year. Our show is 4th. Herb and Raj's show is actually 1st on my personal YouTube watch list. Not really sure that's how my bosses had it drawn up, but it is what it is. And we like our guys over at Herb and Raj, so make sure you're watching, especially at this time of year with Alabama in the playoffs. But Pickett does a really good job of giving you their version of the Spotify, here's your 2025. And they put a lot of info in it. Some of it I think is really good. Some of it I try and do the backwards math on my own, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. I'll give you 2 examples right here. But if you're not on Pickett and you're a recreational sports bettor, my number one piece of advice to you is download Pickett. Like, it's taught me so much about myself as a bettor. It's easy to keep track of all your bets. If you're not doing that, what are you really doing? Treat it like a business. It'll pay you like a business. But you got to treat it like one. Download Pickett. The other thing that you want to make sure you do is, especially like in football playoff time, college football playoff time, a lot of these, if you're a new customer, when you sign up, they're giving you bonuses. They're not sponsors of the show. I'm not going to tell you who's doing what. You guys are all smart out there, but get multiple books and download Pickett. So we're going to go through this. TJ and I have talked about this a lot. Obviously, we're doing our fun little 12 days of bowls miss and trying to hit the ultimate parlay. Obviously, we're betting all those games separately as well. So they compile a bunch of stuff in your end of the year. This is my 2025 on Pickett. From like teams that you bet on the most, how many times you lost a parlay by one leg. Apparently, I found out today I could buy like 2 first-class seats to fly to like Germany on like Emirates Airlines for the amount of parlays that lost by one leg. Don't get me started on that. But I wanted to share with you guys my favorite of all things that I get from Pickett when they do this every year. And they show you your top 2025 money makers. So here's mine. These are the guys that I bet on the most, that I was most successful in betting on. Obviously, number 2 on that list, where we bet Joe Adell a lot this year, and he was very, very good for us. Vladimir Guerrero rode the hot bat in the postseason, rode that pony as long as I could. TJ McConnell, you guys remember that from the NBA Finals, was all over him. Been all over him still in this new season. I was a little surprised to see Jimmy Butler on my list, but I know a lot of that was last year's postseason. And Butler's game is very conducive to player combo betting, which is one of my favorite bets in basketball. I've said this. I know it's something that our guy Crack has echoed a lot of times. Sides in NBA games are really hard to hit. Whether it's, point spread, totals. It's just, to me, it's always been, and I'm not the only one that thinks this. Again, I just mentioned Bill Krakenberger, and it's one of the things I've heard him say a million times. He said it when he was on with us. NBA sides are hard to hit. I love the combo bets. Steph Curry, I can tell you most of those were point totals at halftime of Steph Curry and where he would finish the game. It's kind of interesting. Plus, it's fun at the end of the year to go, okay, I need to stop betting on this asshole because every time I do, he screws me, and enter this guy. Khalil Shakir was my king of donations this year. Now, I don't agree with the math on here. No, you're not going to see how much money I lost on Khalil Shakir because it's none of your damn business. It's not actually that much. But as you can see at the bottom, 27-2. Now, I will say this. That means times that I had like a combo touchdown parlay bet, and he was the reason that it lost. So it's not just like I have this love affair with Khalil Shakir and I bet on him 29 times this year, because I can promise you 29 straight bets on Khalil Shakir did not happen from me. It's really good info is the point. We don't have a final word this week because we don't have a show on Friday, but consider this my final word. And I'll share a couple more of these on tomorrow's show and Wednesday, just to show you all the things that they have. Again, they're not a sponsor of the show, but it has been a tool that I have used for the better part of the last 3 years, I want to say it feels like. And even if you don't have multiple books that you bet on, it's just a really good way to see, hey, okay, I've really sucked on Monday Night Football, but how? Why? Oh, sides and totals I haven't been very good on, but player props I have been. DK Metcalf got me a touchdown last night. It wasn't the first one. He got me 55 yards, not 55 and a half yards, and he had only the 3 catches. That touchdown run, dude. Oh, my God. I still hate the fact that I know the Niners had every opportunity to draft DK Metcalf. Just happy he's not terrorizing me as a Seahawk anymore. But that touchdown run, man, you want to talk about a man run? Dude, that dude could play defensive end. We know it with his size and everything, but holy shit, that touchdown run was incredible. Download Pickett. You'll thank me for it later. It is a season of giving, and I just gave you a gift. Find whatever book works for you and give yourself a Christmas present. Sign up for a new betting account, somewhere that's giving a huge booster on your first deposit with all these playoffs coming up. Again, I'm not going to tell you who because everybody does it. Just go find the one that works best for you. But you owe it to yourself, if you enjoy sports investing, as we like to say, you owe it to yourself to have multiple books. There's certain books that are just absolute shit, and their lines are shit. We've told you about BetMGM. Hour before kickoff, the juice is reduced on BetMGM. Do I like waiting that long to make a bet? No, because I like to jump on the numbers that I like early. Get yourself multiple books, download Pickett. You'll be a better in 2026 because of it. Tomorrow night, TJ will be with me. We're going to puck around and find out, set the table for half of the college football playoff, give you our picks on those games, as well as look at the major matchups in the NFL this weekend. Thursday's Lunchtime Live will cover the other half of the college football first round of the playoffs. We'll talk about that massive matchup between the Hawks and the Rams on Thursday Night Football in Seattle. And we'll also give you our 12 days of Bowls-miss. As far as the rest of the year goes, with the goofy holidays, we've got a show on the 23rd. We've got a show on the 30th. And then those are our last 2 shows for the calendar year of 2025. So that'll be me and TJ tomorrow night, as well as Thursday during the day, next Tuesday, and the Tuesday after that. And the Friday show, which kicks off our 2026, will be the day after the college football semifinals. That should be all of us as well as we go through this incredible time right here. Preach patience. Don't overreact to a blowout. And remember that college football is not broken. It's not drunk. It's just a little hungover right now, and give it some time. For everybody behind the scenes that makes this happen, for all you watching out there, I'm going to go make some chili and try and blow out my sinuses and actually feel like a human being tomorrow. We'll find out tomorrow night. Same bat time, same bat channel right here. How I did. TJ will be with me. Follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana's Show. Tag a friend, tell a friend. You know the drill. We'll talk with you tomorrow night.